O'Brien's first law of politics. The more campaigning, the better. O'Brien's principle. The $357.73 theorem. Auditors always reject any expense account with a bottom line divisible by 5 or 10. O'Brien's rule. Nothing is ever done for the right reason. O'Brien's variation on Ettores' observation. If you change lines, the one you just left will start to move faster than the one you are now in. Occam's electric razor. The most difficult light bulb to replace burns out first and most frequently. Occam's razor. Explanations should never multiply causes without necessity. Osner's law. There is a tendency for the person in the most powerful position in an organization to spend all his time serving on committees and signing letters. Old and Kahn's law. The efficiency of a committee meeting is inversely proportional to the number of participants and the time spent on deliberations. Old Children's law. If it tastes good, you can't have it. If it tastes awful, you'd better clean your plate. Old Engineer's law. The larger the project or job, the less time there is to do it. Old Scottish prayer. O Lord, grant that we may always be right, for thou knowest we will never change our minds. Oliver Herford's rule of publishing. A manuscript is something submitted in haste and returned at leisure. Oliver's law of location. No matter where you go, there you are. Olivier's law. Experience is something you don't get until just after you need it. Olam's observation, and see Martha's maxim and Pharaoh's finding. If God had intended us to go around naked, he would have made us that way. Oppenheimer's observation. The optimist thinks this is the best of all possible worlds, and the pessimist knows it. Optimum optimorum. Principle. There comes a time when one must stop suggesting and evaluating new solutions and get on with the job of analyzing and finally implementing one pretty good solution. Ordering principle. Those supplies necessary for yesterday's experiment must be ordered no later than tomorrow noon. O'Reilly's law of the kitchen. Cleanliness is next to impossible. Orion's law. Everything breaks down. Orwell's law of bridge. All bridge hands are equally likely, but some are more equally likely than others. Osborne's law. Variables won't, constants aren't. O'Toole's commentary on Murphy's law. Murphy was an optimist. Otten's law of testimony. When a person says that, in the interest of saving time, he will summarize his prepared statement. He will talk only 3 times as long as if he had read the statement in the first place. Otten's law of typesetting. Typesetters always correct intentional errors, but fail to correct unintentional ones. Owen's law for secretaries. As soon as you sit down with a cup of hot coffee, your boss will ask you to do something that will last until the coffee is cold. Owen's theory of organizational deviance. Every organization has an allotted number of positions to be filled by misfits. Ocean option. I can't give you brains, but I can give you a diploma. Panic instruction. When you don't know what to do, walk fast and look worried. Pantuso's first law. The book you spent $14.95 for today will come out in paperback tomorrow. Paperboy's rule of weather. No matter how clear the skies are, a thunderstorm will move in 5 minutes after the papers are delivered. Paradox of selective equality. All things being equal, all things are never equal. Parker's law. Beauty is only skin deep, but ugly goes clean to the bone. Parker's law of political statements. The truth of a proposition has nothing to do with its credibility, and vice versa. Parker's rule of parliamentary procedure. A motion to adjourn is always in order. Parker's third rule of tech support. If you can't navigate a 1-level, 5-item phone tree, you didn't need a computer anyway. Parkin's law of irritation. Anything that happens enough times to irritate you will happen at least once more. Parkinson's fifth law. If there is a way to delay an important decision, the good bureaucracy, public or private, will find it. Parkinson's Law, the observation that the duration of public administration, bureaucracy, and officialdom expands to fill its allotted time span, regardless of the amount of work to be done. This was attributed mainly to two factors: that officials want subordinates, not rivals, and that officials make work for each other. Parkinson's Law: work expands so as to fill the time available for its completion. Parkinson's Law for medical research: successful research attracts the bigger grant, which makes further research impossible. Parkinson's Law of 1,000: an enterprise employing more than 1,000 people becomes a self-perpetuating empire, creating so much internal work that it no longer needs any contact with the outside world. Parkinson's Law of delay: delay is the deadliest form of denial. Parkinson's Law of the telephone: the effectiveness of a telephone conversation is in inverse proportion to the time spent on it. Parkinson's Principle of non-origination: it is the essence of grantsmanship to persuade the foundation executives that it was they who suggested the research project and that you were a belated convert, agreeing reluctantly to all they had proposed. Parkinson's Second Law: expenditures rise to meet income. Park's Law of insurance rates and taxes: whatever goes us stays up. Parsons' Law of passports: no one is as ugly as their passport photo. Party Law: the more food you prepare, the less your guests eat. Pasteur's comment on Michel's theorem: nothing is ultimate. Patrick's theorem: if the experiment works, you must be using the wrong equipment. Patri's Law: if you know something can go wrong and take due precaution to prevent it, something else will go wrong. Patton's Law: a good plan today is better than a perfect plan tomorrow. Paturi Principle: success is the result of behavior that completely contradicts the usual expectations about the behavior of a successful person. Corollary: the amount of success is in inverse proportion to the effort involved in attaining it. Paul Principle: people become progressively less competent for jobs they once were well equipped to handle. Paul's Law: in America, it's not how much an item costs, it's how much you save. Paul's Law: you can't fall off the floor. Peckham's Law: beauty times brains equals a constant. Peirce's Law: the solution to a problem changes the problem. Perelman's point: there is nothing like a good, painstaking survey full of decimal points and guarded generalizations to put a glaze like a sung vase on your eyeball. Perkins's postulate: the bigger they are, the harder they hit. Perlzweig's Law: people who can least afford to pay rent have to. People who can most afford to pay rent build up equity. Perlzweig's Second Law: whatever goes around, comes around. Russell's Law: there is no job so simple that it cannot be done wrong. Persig's postulate: the number of rational hypotheses that can explain any given phenomenon is infinite. Pet Principle: no matter which side of the door the cat or dog is on, it's the wrong side. Peter's hidden postulate: according to Godin, every employee begins at his level of competence. Peter's inversion: internal consistency is valued more highly than efficiency. Peter's Law of evolution: competence always contains the seed of incompetence. Peter's Law of substitution: look after the molehills and the mountains will look after themselves. Peter's observation: supercompetence is more objectionable than incompetence. Peter's paradox: employees in a hierarchy do not really object to incompetence in their colleagues. Peter's perfect people. Palliative: each of us is a mixture of good qualities and some, perhaps, not so good qualities. In considering our fellow people, we should remember their good qualities and realize that their faults only prove that they are, after all, human. We should refrain from making harsh judgments of people just because they happen to be dirty, rotten, no good sons of bitches. Peter's placebo: an ounce of image is worth a pound of performance. Kess' Law: no matter what stage of completion one reaches in a North Sea, oil field, The cost of the remainder of the project remains the same. Quantization, revision of Murphy's Law. Everything goes wrong all at once. Q, principle. The longer you wait in line, the greater the likelihood that you are standing in the wrong line. Quile's consultation law. The job that pays the most will be offered when there is no time to deliver the services.